And I am rolling again with Rob Ager from Collative Learning, right?
That's right, yeah. Not collective learning.
Again.
Sorry?
I'm hearing an echo again.
Oh, hang on. Maybe if I lower the volume on my TV, does that help?
All right, let's see. Testing. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
better.
I can still just about hear you.
Yeah, and if anyone's in the chat, I only see 2 people right now, but if anyone's in the chat, just let us know if you hear an echo. Oh, I do hear an echo again. Dang it.
Hang on. Maybe there is
Let me look on my audio too.
an option to get rid of the echo.
I just
You're more familiar with StreamYard than I am.
Yeah, I just took my echo cancellation off, which seems.
Oh, right. Where do you do that? Just a moment.
So
I may have almost found it.
Like everybody's going to get a little lesson in StreamYard. On the little systems or the settings, you click on it and then go to audio, and then there should be an option.
Reduce mic background noise.
And there should be one for echo cancellation under audio.
Okay.
It's usually above reduce mic background noise.
Yeah, echo cancellation is on.
Okay, cool. That should be good then, because I don't hear it now. I don't, so we're good.
Right, okay. If I turn my volume up so I can hear you better.
Okay.
Has the echo come back?
No.
Okay, that's great.
Nope, you're good. So, where were we, darling? We were going to talk about wake-up movies, and
yeah.
I was blessed by you sending me your documents and your private collection. So that was very cool, and I did read both and watched it, and it was incredible. And I can't wait to kind of pick your brain about it. But tell me why you picked these 2 as the wake-up.
They Live and The Matrix. Those 2 movies. I mean, there's plenty of movies that could be picked, but those 2 seem to stand out a lot. Those 2 get referenced all the time in, well, some people call them conspiracy communities, but it depends who's rebelling. I mean, if you go back to the 1980s, when They Live came out, and I think 1988, yeah. At that time, I mean, the term conspiracy theorist was, most people had never even heard the term at the time, but people saw They Live and they related to it and they loved it. And I knew a lot of people who loved the film, but they didn't even think in terms of left wing or right wing. They didn't think in terms of party politics or anything like that. These were just like people I knew who were low down the ladder, like I was, from a poverty background. And they just related to this film as a representation of the system and all the problems that it brings and how people are suppressed and stuff like that. So I thought the film was brilliant at doing that. But then when I went and studied the movie for a very detailed video, which I sent you the text version of, yeah. There was so much going on in it, and I came to realize that what John Carpenter was trying to do with the movie was quite different to how it was received. He was basically coming from the party politics position of he didn't like, Ronald Reagan and the Republican Party. He was against all that, and to him, the aliens in the film basically represent Ronald Reagan's Republican Party. And the whole movie was just a big shout out against that. And, he's been open about that in interviews and stuff. He's openly said that's what it's about. But over the years since, all of the politics has changed. Different leaders have come along, different party politics. The parties themselves have changed a lot. And as time has gone on, this film still appeals to people, but not with reference to Ronald Reagan era capitalism and all that, which is what John Carpenter meant at the time. It's got a narrative that almost anybody can relate to, and whoever their perceived political enemies are, whoever they think is oppressing them, they can watch They Live and say, those aliens represent my enemy.
Yes.
So John Carpenter's got very annoyed with this over the years because the film has become sort of a calling card for both left wing and right wing. So nowadays you get people who say, oh, it represents the Republicans, and you get other people say, oh, that's the Democrats. John Carpenter hates that. And you got other people, which annoyed Carpenter even more, who say that the aliens in the film represent the Jews. And of course, Carpenter got really wound up on that one. And he definitely didn't mean it that way. But yeah, I just find it interesting that that message has become so amorphous and gets anyone can project any enemy into that film as being the aliens. So that's the main thing that I find fascinating about They Live.
Well, what's weird to me, and I've never literally heard of it ever. Oh, I'm hearing the echo again.
Hang on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Yep. Oh, it's still there. That is so strange.
Is it really bad?
It's subtle.
Subtle.
Yeah. I hear it, but it's not crazy. Oh, wait. Did it just go away? Yeah. It just went away.
I just turned the volume way down to the point where I can hardly hear you.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I'll just be a little louder. Maybe I'll turn mine up. But that might freak people out too. I don't know. This is stuff I'm not. But what I was going to tell you was that I literally did not have it on my radar, never even heard of it until my daughter and I in 2020 started waking up to all of this crazy stuff with COVID and blah, blah, blah. So she and I made a list of conspiracy movies, and it was on it, and we watched it. I got to watch it again, though, because I was going to be on with you, and I saw so much more the second time.
Yeah. It's definitely got rewatch value. What did you like most about it? What did you relate to the most?
So it's interesting because you were talking about it being more of a Democrat or Republican. I looked at it more, maybe because I'm a Christian, as a spiritual. Like there's a lot of deception in the world, and there's a lot of sales, and it's not above board, and there's people that hide things from other people, whether it be in healthcare or education or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm still hearing that darn echo.
I have got the echo cancellation switched on.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I can do about that.
Yeah, let me see one more time on my end. Let's see if all right.
I'll just double check it.
What we'll do is there's only an echo when I talk, so we'll just make you talk the whole time. And you're really good at that, so we'll just listen to you mostly. But I don't hear it right now, so whatever we just did, it's good.
Is it still okay?
It just came back. Whatever.
Yes. Okay, so what I can do, right? This is awkward, but I can turn the volume up when I'm listening to you and turn it down when I'm speaking. How's that? Or is it the other way around?
Sounds good. And we'll try to make it so you're doing most of the talking. But yeah, I would also like to, so for me, it became like more of a spiritual movie. But I would love to hear what your thoughts are about him originally not being the writer. Like it was under some other name.
Yeah, from what I remember, because I went through some of the document myself in preparation for this, and there was a lot of information that I'd actually forgotten about, and then I was reading through it. I was like, my God, there's so much there. And I think it originally started off as a short story, a very short story that was in some science fiction book going way, way back to when John Carpenter was a kid. And then somebody had adapted that short story into a short comic strip version of it, a short comic book. I can't remember the authors' names offhand. And Carpenter seemed to have come across the comic book version of it. And that seems to be where he got the inspiration to make the film, because there was some details in the comic book version that weren't in the original short story, and some of those details ended up being in his film version, which is what makes me think that's why he got the idea mainly from the comic version. So yeah, I mean, it's the original short story. It had a lot of strange things in it, which kind of tied in with the stuff that I put into my analysis of it. And I don't know how much John Carpenter took notice of these things, but one of them is that the guy who rebels against the system finds out at the very end of the story that he himself is one of these aliens. That but that's not in John Carpenter's version, at least not in an obvious way. But we do get humans who are working with the aliens in the story. But the main character is absolutely the good guy all the way through, unlike the original story. So yeah, that was a major change. There was something that went on in the original, both versions of the original story, from what I remember, where the character who was rebelling has received a phone call giving him a hypnotic command to die within 12 hours or something like that.
Yep.
He's going to have a heart attack, and he knows he's been hypnotized to have a heart attack and die. And so he's got like 12 hours to expose the system. That's something that's missing from the Carpenter version as well. But yeah, I think Carpenter just took the basic idea and expanded it as a rallying cry against the Republicans and Ronald Reagan. Yeah.
It's funny too, because I agree with you. I was thinking it was very bubblegum is the word you used, and but it was so brilliant at displaying the concept that like you just didn't care. But there were several things that like I still don't understand. For example, like Holly, the girl that he kind of kidnapped and went to her house, how come when he had the glasses on he couldn't see her?
As far as I know, Holly was a human, and she was just working with the aliens. She was one of those career climber people who are just like, I don't care, you know, if this is aliens running it. If I have to side with aliens in order to climb the ladder, then I'll do it. And that's accurate to life, isn't it? And that's one of the major things for me, which the film sort of brings up. I'm glad it brings that up, because a lot of people in the realm of wake up, fight back literature, a lot of the time they have this idea that there's these people at the top, they are the enemy. If we can just take them out, everything will all be better. But it's not. The people at the top, they're just people. They're in themselves, they are nothing. They can't achieve anything on their own, even if they got lots of money. The reason they have the power that they have is because there's a whole network of people underneath them who go along with their stuff for their own careers. And you could make the argument that those people who support them, those are the real enemy. The person at the top is irrelevant, because you remove them, some other corrupt person replaces them, and you still got all that infrastructure of supporting people, career climbers, who just carry on with the same stuff, but under a different leader's name. So I'm glad that the film got in the fact that there are these people who are a problem who support the aliens. I would say they are even more of a problem than the aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, it was also kind of interesting how they had the whole off-planet thing, because I didn't really see what the whole purpose of that was. Maybe I was missing something. Did you get that part?
So I say that again.
So remember when they were like touring where the elite or the rich people were, and they saw that they were taking vacations off to other planets or whatever. Like I didn't really understand that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think that was a fabulously thought out part of the film. It may have been better if it had just been aliens that had lived here with us all along. Yeah, I thought they were just trying to be exotic with that in the standard science fictional sense. But I have quite a specific problem with the film, in that one of the issues throughout history with corrupt leaderships and the people who support them is that they dehumanize other people. They take the general population, they go, oh, we're better than you. We're like a separate species. We're better than you. And we can do whatever we want to you, you know? And to that effect, in the film, the aliens view us as aliens, you know, they view us as another species. But the film actually promotes that same idea of dehumanization. And this is very common in all of the conspiracy literature and stuff. You know, when people start saying that the people at the top of society are lizards and things like that, when people do that, they are engaging in the very same dehumanization of others that they object to when the elites do it downward, you know? So that dehumanization goes both ways, up and down the ladder. And the people at the top are probably looking and thinking, they're calling us aliens, they're calling us lizards. These people are friggin' nuts. We can't let them near the levers of power. They'll have us all thrown in prison for being lizards or something like that, you know. So it's ironic. I mean, to me, the corruption and the denial, the pathology of all this criminal behavior, it isn't concentrated at the top. It is very bad up there, but it's right through the system all the way down. And when I worked in probation and I met a lot of real criminals from low down the ladder, they were just as bad people, if not worse, as the ones at the top. They just didn't have their hands on the economic levers of society to do great damage. But if you took those people, stuck them at the top, we'd have an even worse society than we've got now.
Yeah, have you seen those psychological studies where they gave people permission to zap somebody if they, and it would go on to where they would get worse and worse, and they would think they were killing them, and they would do it?
Yep.
Crazy. Like, and I guess the basic concept is, you know, what you're saying, and that is that we're all capable of deep evil.
So I just get the volume down here again so you don't get too much echo. Well, there's... I lost my train of thought there.
That's because you're having to man the sound effects.
You know what? What it is because I'm having to turn the volume up and down. I keep losing my train of thought. I think your listeners are just going to have to deal with the echo, I think.
Yeah. That works for me.
So we were talking about the people with the experiments at the CIA, with the zapping and the electrocuting people and stuff like that. Yeah. You know what? I've always had like a slight suspicion about that experiment. I tend to go for a kind of meta conspiracy level on a lot of these things. I think a lot of the conspiracy material that gets put out there is actually material that is propaganda in itself to make people disillusioned. You take, like, say, the lizard people theories. I think that is very deliberately latched onto and given more exposure in order to make people who dislike elements of the system look nuts. Yeah. And it may be, you could say, like David Icke or somebody may have come along and talked about these lizard theories, and he may have meant it from the heart, but the people in the media can latch onto him and go, oh, here's your lunatic, you know. And with an experiment like that with the CIA, I ask myself wondering, why would they publish that? Why would they let that be known? How do they benefit from putting that study out there? I don't know. Maybe that could be like, it's their way of saying, hey, look, we can get people to torture you. You know, it's a bit like when you got like George W. Bush, who comes out and he says to the cameras and he talks and he says, the US government does not torture its citizens. He may as well be saying, oh, we do. You know, it's a very easy form of propaganda is to openly state something as the negative, as a way of telling people, oh, this is how it is. Or you can do it the other way around. So I've often wondered about that CIA experiment, and I don't know if that particular experiment has been repeated elsewhere by other institutions to verify it, but I don't trust a lot of the leaks that come out of these organizations.
Yes, I'm exactly the same. I think of it like I hear the information, and then I think in spectrum, I think, okay, at the very least it's this, at the very best it's that, and then I just kind of hold that duality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I think that these films help people do, though, is I think a lot of people are learning how to awaken and how to what's the word for it? Like to begin looking within, and maybe they can start helping their own personal corruption. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do think these films help. I mean, They Live definitely, for me, was I had never really thought about questioning the news media before. I just believed any crap I read in magazines and newspapers at the time when I was younger. So in 1987, I was in my mid-teens, and I saw They Live, and that was a good early sort of introduction to the idea that, hey, maybe all these publications lie to you. And yeah, so that was good. And then there's been other ones along the way, like Fight Club. When I first saw that, I couldn't relate to it at all. But it was only a little while later, after I'd been reading some stuff like Chomsky and watching some interviews with him and things like that, and some other people, and that made me go back and watch Fight Club and go, oh yeah, now I get what this film's going on about. But for some reason, I couldn't get it the first go. And then The Matrix came along. I think, was Matrix and Fight Club the same year? I think they were.
Yeah, I don't know. I
think 1999 was a big year for wake-up movies. You had the Eyes Wide Shut, The Matrix, Fight Club, Vanilla Sky. There was a whole bunch of them that came out that year. It was very weird. I don't know if there's some reason for that synchronicity. Maybe it was just something that was in the air at the time. Yeah.
Okay, I have an idea, because they're still hearing an echo when I talk, is maybe instead of turning me down, just mute yours.
Mute.
Like here, like I can mute you right there. I just muted you, and now there's no echo. And then if I unmute you, there's an echo.
Okay.
So I'll mute you, or you mute you. It will be a hassle, but I think it'll work. And so the next thing,
my mute button's not working here, I'm afraid. So it's just not.
Oh, there, I got it. I'll do it for you. And so the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the glasses. Like, I'm sure you're aware that there's an actual real military glass that they had released out, and that these soldiers, troops, I don't remember what form of a soldier, what division, if it was Army, Navy, Marine, I don't remember, but whatever it was, the leaders were told, you can't look at them, but the guys can. But they were having actual experiences with demons, and one of the colonels went ahead and looked, and he was told not to, and he did it anyway, and it was a huge deal in the American armed services. Kind of strange.
Where did you hear about that one? I've never heard of that.
Oh, you haven't? There's something here. Let me put you on mute again. It is a type of glass that has a blue dye that does something that allows for people to see entities. Have you ever seen some of these people's Ring cameras, or different people's houses have like weird fairies and stuff that are hanging around their Ring cameras?
I've seen various videos on all ghosts and things like that. Personally, I've never found any of them believable. I think we've discussed before that, I mean, I'm not like a total atheist, non-spiritual person. I do believe there's something more to reality than what the scientists tell us. I don't just believe everything's all a chemical accident, but I haven't got a clue what that other thing is. I don't know if you call it spiritual. I don't know if you call it ghosts, souls, or whatever. But personally, to date, I've never come across anything in all of the ghost research realm that I've found believable. I mean, if somebody came and provided me with those glasses and I was able to take a look, I wouldn't be like the black guy in They Live, where he's like, I'm not putting the glasses on. I'd be like, oh, yeah, gimme, I'll have a go at that. You wouldn't have to beat me up to get me to wear them. So yeah, I don't know. I've not heard of that. But again, I often wonder how much of those things get put out of propaganda. It's like the stuff with the UFOs. I personally think most of the UFO stuff that comes out, especially all the leaks and stuff like that, I think a lot of it's propaganda to cover up something else that's going on, which for me would just be probably hidden technologies that have been kept from the public. And it's like, if we just weave this narrative of UFOs, it sends people off and distracted and stuff like that. And yeah, so I don't believe a lot of the stuff that comes out. I'm even more of a conspiracy theorist in that I take it to the meta level.
Yeah, there's psyops on top of psyops. You got backup plans to your backup plans. But yeah, the thing that was so interesting to me about the Frank thing, not wanting to watch the video or look through the glasses, was the fight. The fight was the craziest, longest fight I've ever seen in a movie, to the point that I fast forwarded it and still didn't get through it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people consider that fight scene to be legendary, but I didn't. I thought it was funny, but it wasn't a realistic fight. It was, the massive punches from guys with big muscles, and I think one's got a cut lip, no teeth missing, no black eye shiners with the eye closed shut from. I think one of them hits the other in the groin with his knee about 5 times. Yep. 2 seconds later, the other guy gets up and fights back against him. So, yeah, I mean, the film plays out really good as a kind of a comedy in the vein of the WWF wrestling stuff, where people just do wild, crazy stunts and stuff. So it's a shame, really, because I think if Carpenter had worked on the script more, instead of just blasting it out as being a shout against the Republicans, I think if he took the time to really think it all out, I think he could have done something that was a lot more special. So I love the film for what it did in introducing people to those ideas, but I thought the execution fell way short of the ideas.
Oh yeah, me too. There was a lot of, and even Holly, like, the reason I think I thought she was one of them was because she was so like that was it. Like she just wasn't acting. She was just looking forward and like just really intense. And she's got those really, really pretty blue eyes, but it was very strange. I thought her whole part in it. That's why I thought she was one of them, but it makes sense that she was just bought out basically. And so do you think that The Matrix and They Live are similar in what their bent was, like what the intent was? Do you think both of them were maybe created as ways to spin people off into looking at other things instead of really looking at what's going on in their own lives?
Well, I don't really think that either the films were made in a dishonest way. I don't think they were made as propaganda to spin people off in another way. I think in some ways they spun people off in another way, probably in ways that the filmmakers didn't really intend. So with They Live, there's a lot of the stuff what I mentioned earlier about where there's very oversimplistic ideas about who the enemy are and how to fight them. The idea that you could just put a set of glasses on and it would instantly tell you who's an enemy and who's not, that's like a dream come true. But reality isn't like that. It's nothing like that. Your enemies can be anywhere. They can look. Your enemies can be within your own family, and that's a really awkward thing in life, is that people are very complex and people don't just fit into friend and enemy categories. Someone can be your friend and then become your enemy later, or vice versa. They might be your enemy in one way but a friend in another. It's very complex, and I think people find all of this confusing because it means that they don't know who to lash out against. But the idea of the glasses telling you who you should lash out against is nice and easy. You don't have to think. And so, like the lead character, Nada, he gets the glasses, he takes a look around. Oh, these are my enemies. And then he just walks into a bank with a shotgun and starts blasting people away like he's a terrorist, And it's like, hang on, isn't this what real terrorists do? They just point these people out and say they need to be executed because they're the enemy, and that's it. And so off I go. And so Nada does that. And I just find it ironic that he gets viewed as a hero. I've come here to, to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And then he starts blasting people. And yeah, I just find that really crazy. But that speaks to how the audience think. People want to know who their enemy is. They don't want a complex conversation about it. They want the most simplistic point and shoot mentality that they can. So that's going on in The Matrix. In They Live. I don't think Carpenter really meant it to be like that. It just seemed to be like a commercial requirement for the film to succeed. It needed to have some action scenes. You take all the action out of it, it wouldn't be nearly as successful. And people like the idea that once you know who your enemy is, you just kill them and that's it. But in reality, if you're going to have some sort of revolution that changes the system for the better, doing it with a shotgun isn't really that great. You want to do it with ideas and words and communicating with people. So yeah, that's, for me, that was the big problem with They Live. With The Matrix, it was a completely different problem. Again, we've got a hero who is too simplistic. Both Nada in They Live and Neo in The Matrix, to me, they don't really have hero traits. They're not particularly intelligent. I mean, all of the best lines in The Matrix come from other characters. Neo doesn't really say anything that's memorable. You never hear him say anything inspiring. He's just like, oh, is that what's going on? Now I need to punch and kick. And, oh, I can punch and kick faster than anybody else, and I can defy gravity better than anyone else. Therefore, I win. And to me, that The Matrix was supposed to be about waking people up against the system. And in a lot of ways, it did. It got people to think about that stuff. That's great. But ultimately, the film took people into an alternative fantasy where it's, we don't want to escape the Matrix. We want to stay in the Matrix and have superpowers because it's more fun.
That was my favorite part of your write-up, was that realization, because that, I think, is super powerful. You know, when you really think about it, they were complaining about it and complaining about it, and then when they finally get the power, like you said, in the sequels, they're flying around and like taking over the place instead of getting people out like you would think they would.
Yep. And unfortunately, again, I don't necessarily blame the filmmakers. I blame the audience, because people are like that generally. People want the simplicity of knowing who the enemy is, so they can, you just kill them and that's it, or you just reject them and that's it. You just point the finger at them and say they're evil. And we see this all the time. Everybody's always pointing to one politician or one Donald Trump, Bill Gates, whoever. Here in Britain at the moment, it's Keir Starmer. I can't stand the guy, but I am under no illusion that removing him from power is going to change things. He's just one guy, you know. But yeah, people want to have a single person they can just point the finger at and say, that's the enemy. If we can make everybody hate him, then we've won, you know. So you got that big problem. But then they've got the other side of it where they want to deny reality and live in a sort of a very childish, juvenile fantasy where the physical limitations on our body don't exist. We can jump over walls, we can punch through walls, we can tumble down a set of stairs without breaking any bones. People can punch us repeatedly in the face and we don't have a bruise. We might just have a little bit of blood to show that we're suffering. But hey, man, we can deal with it. Never get a tooth knocked out in a fight or nothing like that. And The Matrix, it sort of goes for the wake-up thing, and then it drags us into this infantile mentality. But unfortunately, the film had this problem where once you awaken from the Matrix within the film, you're then stuck in this underground cave system, which is not appealing. It's like, what? I woke up to this? And it's understandable that Cypher wants to get back into the Matrix and forget about this cave system. And that's what the other characters end up doing anyway.
Well, no, it was a really good point. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the fourth Matrix film, Neo and his partner, what's her name, Trinity, they finish the film flying around in the sky, holding hands like superheroes, and they're talking about painting the sky with rainbow colors. They are basically doing what Cypher was trying to do in the first film, but Cypher is framed as treasonous and they're not. But so the two of them are going to redesign the Matrix the way they see fit, but no question is sort of given about all the other people who are in the Matrix. Do they want the reality that Neo and Trinity are going to impose on them? Do they want the rainbow sky? Do they want to be flying around in the clouds? You know, it's like Neo and Trinity have become the new agents, and I don't think that was intended to be the message at all in the film, but that irony is there.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of Tom Althouse, or what was the other girl's name? There's two other people that claim they wrote that film.
Yeah, as far as I know, I did read about one of them, and apparently her claim was thrown out of court. So I haven't seen the court documents or anything. I think to really make an assessment of that, I'd have to look at the court documents. I don't even know if they're publicly available. It'd be interesting one to look at. But yeah, I've never really believed that because I don't know. I just tend to think a lot of people want to latch onto something that's famous and claim money, claim it's theirs. She might even believe it, but I haven't seen any evidence that it's true.
I forgot her name, but I did look into it, and from what I could gather, there was a lawsuit, and she was demanded to provide certain things, and she didn't finish. She didn't follow through. So I don't think it actually went to court. I don't think it ever finished. And then the other gentleman, his name is Tom Althouse, and he's been on Roseanne Barr and different people. And I've even had him here, and I'd gone back and removed it just because I didn't know. Like, he kept holding up this script, and I fell for that at first, but I just didn't. Something seemed off with it to me, and then I caught him lying about something else. Nothing to do with that. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna let go of this. But I will say that the way that he describes it actually makes more sense to me than the way that they went with it. And the way he ended it, he says he ends it where there's a train scene and he's showing the family, or there's some totally different thing. And that was the other thing. The first lady that went to court, she literally she said it's based on this book. Well, I went and bought the book because I was like, I want to see if it's like it. There was nothing in it like the Matrix, except for like the force of like wind, maybe, like not even slow motion, nothing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think this kind of thing's common where people think that other people have ripped them off. I had two people who accused me of doing something like that.
Wow.
On the same thing. Two different people making the exact same accusation regarding the same video. And it was like, well, if one of you is correct, that means the other one is wrong. So at least one of them is wrong. Mm-hmm. And if one of them is wrong, both of them can be wrong. You know what I mean? So and I think sometimes it's like a pride thing where it's like somebody's developed an idea, they've tried to put it out there, they didn't manage to get it out there. I mean, the idea might have been great, right, but they weren't able to get it done, and they feel like somebody else has ripped them off. They convince themselves somebody else has ripped them off, so that they can try and claim something from them. It's so weird how. I mean, I came to a conclusion a long time ago that a hell of a lot of people in society, probably as much as 50% of them, maybe a lot more, are not actually interested in the truth. They just want convenient truths that fit their own desires, that lead them to entitlement. And so we get all this thing across society now where different groups compete with each other to claim that they are the biggest victim group in society. People do it on ethnicity, they do it on gender, they do it on this, on that, and the other. And I argue with these people, and they don't want to hear the truth. Like for example, when I was younger and I was writing and directing short films, I wanted to get funding to make films because I was funding everything out of my own pockets. And so I went to the BBC in Manchester when I was living there, and I went to Northwest Vision here in Liverpool. They were both of those were like government funded film sources,
like grants.
And I went to both of them to ask, can I? I've got some scripts, I've got some films I've already made. I've written, directed, edited. I've done all the stuff on my own, and I finished my projects and stuff like that. And the projects must be okay, because whenever I make a new project, if I take the people who I need as volunteers and I show them the films I've already made, they go, oh, great, I'm on board. So if the films were terrible, they wouldn't all keep volunteering to be in the films.
Exactly.
So I'd go to these organizations and they would literally say to me, sorry, you're a young white male. We've got enough of that. Northwest Vision, they literally said that to me in the interviews. As soon as I walked in the door and they saw my face, I could tell right away they didn't want to know. Okay. Now, I'm not claiming to be like a big victim here. I'm not claiming the industry owes me
100%. I hear you.
But when I would speak to these people and I would say, well, why are you blocking all white guys out from film funding here? And are you blocking white women as well? You know, and they wouldn't really answer on that one. And they would put the ads out. They would put the adverts out, asking for people to come and get funded, but they wouldn't say in the advert, no white people allowed.
Right.
They would wait and say that on the phone, you know. And so I would say to them, look, I understand why you're doing this. The idea is that a lot of people from minorities have grown up in poverty. You want to help them out. I totally get that. I've seen the documentaries and stuff about the black ghettos in America and stuff like that and around Britain. There's a black ghetto in Liverpool called Toxteth. I'm very familiar with it, and I've seen the poverty there and how those people have a hard time. I appreciate that is what's going on. And at the same time, I come from a white ghetto, right? And there are white ghettos all over Britain that have got just as much social problems as places like Toxteth. This isn't a race issue. This is a poverty issue. And they would switch off to that. They did not want to hear that particular message, you know? And so I think people do that across the board. So you get people in a certain neighborhood who say, oh, because I'm this ethnicity or this religion, that's why I'm downtrodden and in poverty. And they will ignore the fact that people are in poverty from other groups, you know. So I've gone off on a big ramble there.
Just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. So there's a competition among different groups in society for victimhood. And people want to be seen as a victim so that they can claim privilege. Like society owes me this because I'm a big victim. Therefore, I don't have to go and earn it. You know, and of course, I don't think they plan it out that way. Some people probably do. In fact, there have been cases where people have done that. But I think most people, it's like a denial thing and they just sort of unconsciously do that. But when you challenge them on it, they don't like it. And so I think that ties back to what you're saying about these people who claim that, oh, this big movie ripped off this from me. There was the case of James Cameron with Avatar and the artist Roger Dean, who used to paint all these pictures. Have you seen his stuff?
I've heard about it. And does it have to do with something in Nigeria or some place in Africa?
No, it's not necessarily to do with Africa. Maybe part of it might have been about that. But Roger Dean was very famous in the 1970s, and well, he still is. He used to do all these really nice, beautiful, colorful paintings of floating islands in a very distinct style. Cool. And he would do a lot of album covers, lovely painted album covers, especially for bands like Yes. And he was very famous for that. And when James Cameron made Avatar and he had all these floating islands in the film, you can very easily look at those floating islands and say, oh, he's took this from Roger Dean. And I think Roger Dean started a court case against him, and I don't think it succeeded in the end. I think it failed.
Yeah.
And I think they were right to fail that, because the whole Avatar film doesn't, I mean, I don't like the film personally, but to say that the whole film's success is just down to the fact that there's floating islands in it.
Yeah.
And the idea that somebody can copyright the notion of floating islands, no, Roger Dean didn't invent that. Floating islands have existed in many other forms of artwork and in fiction stories. Jack and the Beanstalk, the clouds and stuff, you know, that stuff goes way back in history. But I mean, there is an uncanny resemblance in the Avatar film, but I don't think there's enough there. I mean, if the film had succeeded on that basis, yeah, but there's lots of other stuff in the Avatar film that made it successful that didn't come from Roger Dean. So I thought it was a waste of time of him doing that. You know, it would have been nice if James Cameron had come out and said, oh, you know, we took some inspiration from Roger Dean here, you know, credit to him, you know.
Right. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. But James Cameron was also sued by Harlan Ellison going back a long time ago for the Terminator, which apparently ripped off some episodes of The Outer Limits, 2 particular episodes. One was called Soldier, and when you see the episode, you can see the similarity. The plot points are incredibly similar, and it is very clear that Cameron took a lot of inspiration from that. And there was another episode called Demon with a Glass Hand, which the action scenes in that episode are very similar to the stuff that you get in The Terminator. That's an amazing episode, by the way. Fantastic. But the thing is, James Cameron did a lot of stuff in the Terminator film that wasn't in those episodes. The actual cyborg Terminator was not in the Soldier episode. It was 2 humans sent back in time. But the big appeal of the Terminator film was the robot.
It really was. Yes, I agree.
That did not come from Harlan Ellison. And apparently there was an out-of-court settlement on that. Personally, I don't think a court case should have been started in the first place on that one. I thought Cameron did enough to establish that he'd made this film succeed on his own. Yeah.
It's fascinating to me because I do believe at some point you have to say, well, things exist. Am I not allowed to look at things? Am I not allowed to draw upon things? Am I not allowed to just use something as an idea or as a catalyst or a launching spot and not have it be like, it's not even 10% of the movie having just islands in the sky. But I do want to go back to the victim piece because this has been something that's always bothered me, because as I matured, I realized that was the largest piece of me that was my shadow. And when you realize something, then you really kind of try to heal it. And then once you heal it, you become an advocate because you want others to cross that land as well. And I think that the reason that it is that way, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, because I think that stories from the beginning of time have had to have a character arc. And I think an easy way of having a character arc is to have them be a victim. And I also think that people reward victims over and over again. Here, we're going to give this person an award because of this, or we're going to tell their story on the news because they were a victim. And I think that there's a lot of attention given to victims. And so I think that might be some of the reason.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. I mean, I used to do counseling a long time ago. In my early to mid 20s, I was so interested in psychology, and at the time I'd found out that you don't actually have to have a academic qualification to do counseling. You're allowed to do it anyway. Now, whether you're any good at it is another matter, and there's an old joke about people doing counseling and therapy, which was that people set up a private practice so that they can practice privately. And because basically the counseling courses and stuff don't really equip you to do the job. They give you a lot of theories and stuff, and then when you actually sit down with real people, real problems, you find out that it doesn't work the way they said. It's not just a case of, oh, if you just listen and nod your head and just paraphrase back to them what they're saying, then they will somehow magically find a solution. That was the Carl Rogers approach. But in terms of the victimhood thing, I found out when I started doing the counseling that there are some people who just go to therapy for the attention. Some of them, they don't have any friends. So they would go to the therapy so that they could be your friend for an hour. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to work fast. I want to help you get the result that you want fast. And then you're out the door then, I wouldn't say it like that. I wouldn't say it like that, but you get some of them, you'd have a really good session with them. And then they are asking you to go for a pint in the pub.
Right.
And I'm like, sorry, no, I'm not your buddy. I'm not your friend, and you get ones who were therapist hoppers that jump from one therapist to another. And they would just be using this helpless sense of victimhood to get people interested in them. And I've met a lot of people in life who do that as well. As they go around meeting people, and when they meet people, they just tell about their victim stories to get the other person to give attention and talk to them. And it's not even necessarily that they mean bad by it or they're plotting it. They just got into that habit over the years, and then they get to the point where they don't know how to communicate in any other way. Yeah.
No, absolutely love what you're saying. And I've even gotten to the point where, people will ask me because they're like, you're really against charity. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really against charity because it's been used as a vehicle to steal money and to launder money. And I also think that we should never feel sorry for anyone. I think that everyone is perfect and they're wonderful, and they just need to be reminded that they're perfect and wonderful and that they have a spot in the world no matter who they are. I have seen the most amazing things happen. Some blind woman marrying a deaf man and how they get together, and you're like, both of them never thought they'd find love, and they're crazy in love. And so there's just so many beautiful stories, and there's so many possibilities. And so when people ask me, well, what would you do for charity? And I'm like, I think you give it to the hardest working person that's doing great things and overcoming and not complaining, because those are the people that actually really deserve it. They're strong and they deserve somebody to witness and to see them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's kind of I think there's a mentality that empowers people that's probably along the lines of what you're saying, which is that when a person is very selfish, that in itself can lead to a victimhood thing, because they concentrate on their own problems and not other people's. So every day is all about my problems. But I think once a person sort of takes the attitude of like, I'm part of the human race, I am part of a bloodline of people, a genetic line of people that goes back. And I don't mean ethnic competition between people. For me, the human race is my race. I don't care what my skin color is or anything like that. I don't care what my gender is or anything like that. That's, to me, that stuff is just incidental. So the human race is the organism that I'm a part of. And why do I just want to be in this world and just do things for my own pleasure and just forget the rest of my own species? So it's kind of like, what can I do to contribute to other people? How can I help people who want to be helped? Can I find some extra knowledge? Can I discover some new things that I can pass on that other people can use and things like that? And for me, ever since I first took that attitude, my life really started to change. For one thing, my own personal problems didn't matter very much. They became minor annoyances, and yeah, I tend to, when I find people who've got like that extreme victimhood thing, and I start saying to them, well, why don't you commit yourself to some cause outside of yourself?
That's great advice.
Yeah. But I don't think people who have a victimhood mentality don't really hear that from people very much. They don't get people saying to them, well, never mind you, what about this world? There's people in this city that you're in who are suffering way worse than you in all kinds of ways. Why is your problems more important than them? Can't you sort of start contributing, and taking part in the larger thing of what other people want and need, not just yourself? So I do think there's a very strong sense of selfishness that's tied in to this victim identification thing that people have got. Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing about the victim, it is a driver in movies often, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we just need more movies that there's not a victim. So we're not modeling that to people over and over again, and that somebody else is going to come save you. And basically what you and I have done is we've kind of saved ourselves. And in saving ourselves, we have more, my friend James True calls it calories. We have more calories to help share and pour out and do for others.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's a great point about the heroes in movies. I mean, so many movies push this idea that the hero starts off as a mega victim and they've suffered worse than anybody else out there, and therefore everybody should respect them and just automatically bow down and think that they're cool because they made it through all these problems. But I tend to like the heroes who are different to that, who say like John Carpenter's, go back to John Carpenter, The Thing, that movie, don't you?
I have not seen that one. I need to see it.
Oh my God, you got to see this film. It's very gory, but in a surrealist way that's not too disturbing. But the hero character in that is pretty much totally selfless. He is absolutely committed to saving the human race from this infectious alien creature. And he is, to me, just like an exemplary hero. At no point in the film does he complain about being a victim. It's not presented that he's got a victim background. He doesn't even have a background. He's just in the situation, and his priority is to save the human race, and that's it. And even at the end of the movie, he knows he's going to die. There's no way he can survive the situation. But still, even in that situation, he's like, I'm going to do everything I can to save the human race, even though I'm going to die. And he's going to die, and nobody is ever going to know that he's a hero because the situation he's in. He will die, he will freeze to death, and nobody will even know that he fought this creature. But still, he's like, I'm going to save the human race, regardless of whether I'm remembered or not. And to me, that is the full-on hero thing. When the hero is doing it for the sake of being remembered by the history books, that's not a hero. Yeah.
Amen. Well, and then like you said too, in the document that you sent about the Matrix, they leave you at the end of the Matrix so hopeful. Like, and he even walks out like above, you know, he's on Earth, right? He's not in the underground or whatever, at least if I recall correctly. And so it's kind of strange that they do kind of set it up like he's gonna like be starting all over again, and then it completely switches up.
Yeah, it's I mean, it doesn't, you know, it ends with that shot. He's walking in the streets in slow motion with the shades on. He's got the identity of being cool. He's got the image. He's got the long overcoat and all that. And to me, that's kind of like what you get with a lot of the music stuff, with like the rappers and the goths and stuff like that, the heavy metalers and all this, and various other musical movements. They want the image of being a rebel, but actually they're just conforming to whatever that genre is. If I just wear these clothes and wear these shades, or have this beard, and if I just rap these lyrics, if I just sing this, then, you know, that's it. It's auto cool, and everyone will just think I'm great. And it's like these people aren't really interested in the big fight against the system. They're interested in their own image, which is, to me, is a big fail. You know, I always found it funny, like in the rap world. I mean, I'm not knocking all of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heavy metal music and rap music that I really, really like and love. I've talked before, I absolutely love the Gravediggers' first album, the rap album. For me, that's one of the top 5 best albums ever made. I love it. So I'm not against the genres. But when you get like rappers and MCs who are shouting, keeping it real, you know, it's like, hang on, keeping it real has just become like a marketing slogan, like, you know, like some McDonald's type slogan or something, like Kit Kat, take a break or something. And it's like, it's ironic that you're saying keeping it real, but that's just a slogan you picked up from elsewhere. So it's not real. It's the opposite of real. Yeah. So I think a lot of these movies sell this idea of the identity of a rebel. And a lot of people watch them. They want the identity, but I don't think they're really that interested in the reality of rebelling and fighting against bad forces and stuff like that. So I guess the juvenile stuff appeals to them on that level. And this is why I don't necessarily blame the filmmakers. I think the filmmakers are trying to get the message, the good message, but they're trying to blend it with the garbage that the audience wants, in the hope that the audience will engage with the garbage and will eventually get the real message. And that can work.
Yeah, because we're kind of cool and we've got it all under control. I don't know. I think too, like just even talking to you about the victim thing, it really makes me start thinking about, okay, you've got wake up movies, and these people are in some ways resisting the truth and still holding on to this idea that there's magic out there that I can be a part of. And I think that really what people like you and I do is try to like get people past the black pill, so to speak, and into like, let's not make it about a red pill or a blue pill. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, the red pill, blue pill thing, I don't think this was intended, but you could tie that directly to party politics. You know, over in the US, you've got the red is the Republicans, the blue is the Democrats. Yeah. Here in Britain, we've got it the other way around, color-wise. So in the US, you know, the Republicans are considered to be the conservatives, and they are represented by red. Here in Britain, we've got the Labour Party, which is supposed to be left wing, is supposed to be our equivalent of the Democrat Party, and yet for them, red is the colour, and the Conservative Party here is the blue party. So I've always said that the left and right are interchangeable anyway. Whichever one gets in power,
100%.
you pretty much get the same garbage from either side. So the fact that those two pills have the opposite colours swapped around across the continent for the two major parties, for me, that exemplifies that.
I have been also, that was another thing that Tom Althouse, the gentleman who claims to have written it, and I'm not saying he didn't, I don't know who wrote it, but he was saying that everyone kept saying take the red pill, but he had intended it for people to understand that you were supposed to appreciate what you have, and family and all of the stuff that has to do with just regular life is really what it's all about, is the children and humanity, etc.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring the family one up as well, because both in They Live and The Matrix, and in a lot of these movies like Fight Club and things like that, there's not much emphasis on the family thing. There's no babies in The Matrix. I mean, well, people wake up out of the pods like they're a baby, but there's, you got Neo and Trinity, they don't make a baby. Why not? In They Live, you talked about the love interest character. It's a very dodgy love story, that one. She's very beautiful. She's got those amazing eyes that are just gorgeous. I could understand any guy falling for those eyes. But she is like an enemy, and for me, that in the movie just that was almost like a John Carpenter statement against women generally. That might be an extreme way of putting it, but the film definitely did not portray women in a good light. The people who are doing the hardcore fighting in that movie, the main characters, are all men, and that's like a lot of people are drawn into that. Some women think all men are evil, some men think all women are evil. I've seen lots of that from both sides, and it shows up in certain movies as well. And I think John Carpenter had some bad relationships that had gone wrong and stuff, and I think he was expressing that a little bit in the They Live film. I don't think he was trying to say all women are terrible. I think there are some sort of bit part female fighters in the film at some point, but they're so minor they're almost irrelevant. That was supposed to tie back into something that we were talking about a moment ago. So you've got the rebellion thing with these movies, but not an emphasis on the importance of family. That is a really bizarre one. With the pills thing, I was thinking that what Neo should have done in the movie was taken both the red pill and the blue pill and swallowed the two of them at once, so that he can absorb all the information and integrate it all together, and then come out better as a result of that. Yeah.
Or maybe he would have just died and the whole movie would have ended. But yeah, no, there was some great parts in that movie. There's so many things that, like, it's almost like some dark person trying to copy like what's natural and what is God made, because like he was even in like the slippery womb, and then he goes down the little chute, and it does seem like it's trying to replicate being born in some ways.
Yeah, I mean that concept of rebirth is all over the place, isn't it? Again, this reflects both up and down the ladder. If you look at a lot of secret society stuff, like the stuff that's actually documented, like Masonic stuff and things like that, or the OTO, or a lot of these organizations have got websites. And I've met people who are members, and they weren't particularly bad people. They just happened to be members, and well, I wouldn't say they were bad people at all. I mean, I wouldn't want to join, but they just seem like regular people who just happen to be members of these organizations. And I'm trying to. What was I just saying a moment ago? There was some important point I was coming to.
I was talking about birth and
birth thing. Yeah. In a lot of their literature, they they have this concept of rebirth. If you go in the Masonic stuff and the OTO and organizations like that, they talk about rebirth. You join our organization, you get reborn. And oh, this has suddenly switched to just me on the camera. Have you got both of us?
So sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Okay, that's fine. Right.
What did I miss?
So we still okay there? Right. I stopped about 2 seconds afterwards. Okay, so I'll go back on that a little bit. Yeah, so we've got the concept of rebirth is used by secret societies, occult societies, things like that, these evil societies. But we also get it in our own fight back movies. And I think maybe part of that is the idea that the people at the bottom are looking at these societies and going, oh, you're into this rebirth thing, are you? Well, we're going to do our version of a rebirth. And you get down 2001: A Space Odyssey at the end. He's turned into the Star Child and he's reborn, if you've seen the movie or not. So yeah, I mean, again, that's another thing where it echoes up and down the system, and the people at the bottom start to take on the traits of the people at the top. And eventually, if they do swap places, it's the same thing. It's just like the cycle of the political parties. One major party gets in, and yay, we got rid of the evil party, and then they become the evil party, and then 4 years or 8 years later, it swaps around, and then the role of who is the bad guy and who is the victim, who is fighting back, just switches around, and they keep going in circles. And yeah, I think that goes on with a lot of these things. Yeah.
I wonder if it has to do with our actual polishing, our evolution as the human species, because like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of very immature humans that can't look at even parts of their own life or look at truth, like we were saying earlier, or they're really embracing being a victim, and maybe it's all just a mirror to show us how we could become better. And then the irony of it flipping, because I remember even when I was younger, it used to be the red was one and the blue was the other. It used to be the Democrats were red and we were blue, and then it switched later. I mean, like 20 years later, because I remember when I was younger, it was different. And then also, just even like growing up, the liberals were always the kind and tolerant ones, and now they're the ones that they're like, go get the shot, and it's wild to see the absolute flip, even to the point that they were talking about my body, my choice, when it was abortion, but then when it came to the shot, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's like if you put the person in the other situation, they haven't grown yet, and so they're not. And to me, if somebody could do a movie about how we all need to grow and how we could just free everyone if everyone would take care of their own crap, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, the ironies, isn't it? I mean, once you notice that stuff, it stands out so much. Like, how are other people not seeing this? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, sorry, there was just something I wanted to show you. This is actually quite related to what you've just been saying, really. It's been sat here on my desk. I've been wanting to show you this. Regarding the movie Fight Club, this is especially relevant to Fight Club, but I think it's relevant with a lot of the fight back movies we've been talking about. There's this little document from Russia from this fellow called Sergei Nechayev, Catechism of a Revolutionary. Have you ever come across this?
No, never even seen it.
This is insane. It's only like the size of a passport, really. How many pages is it? I think it's about it's
40 pages,
34 pages. But on each page is just a simple rule.
Right. Right.
Now, this guy put this together as basically a blueprint for revolutionary operatives against the state to act upon, right? And it's very much done in the style of like Fight Club, where the rules, Fight Club, they have the rules. You don't talk about Fight Club,
First
and
rule,
you do this. Yeah. But his rules are way more insane than the ones in Fight Club. And basically, this is interesting because it's almost like on serial killer level psychopathy, what was in here. In fact, it is on that level.
Whoa.
Because he very specifically talks about how the revolutionary should not be distracted with things like family, friends. They should have no friends, no family, and even the other revolutionaries don't matter. You are only using the other revolutionaries to help you in your cause, but they actually don't matter to you. If they have to die horribly, fine. If you have to lie to your fellow revolutionaries to achieve the revolution, fine. So he's encouraging every one of the revolutionaries to all have no sense of loyalty to each other even. And he is very outright in saying that the aim is the complete destruction of the state and all of its institutions. At no point does he talk about what to replace it with.
Right.
It's a terrorist document.
A manifesto.
It's awful. I tell you, get a copy of this, folks. This will shock you. I couldn't believe how blatant it was. I never knew this existed. I only found out about this because it so often comes back to him. Stanley Kubrick, of all people, slipped in a copy of this on a bookshelf in his movie A Clockwork Orange. Because Clockwork Orange has got a lot of stuff in it about how the left and the right are basically the same.
Oh, they are,
so
for sure.
You've seen the movie, haven't you?
No.
Well, you haven't. Right,
no.
well,
I need to see it.
In the plot of that film, the government is evil, and the people who are fighting the government are evil, and the main character gets abused by both of them in turns at different points in the film, and both of them are just trying to use him against each other they're trying to use him as a propaganda weapon. Each one is trying to say, look, he's a victim of the government. Look, he's a victim of these socialists. Yep. And both of them are just trying to use him to get power. And so, yeah, Kubrick had slipped in a book on a shelf in the movie that had this title on it, but this never existed in a proper book form. So it was like Kubrick had got a book and just put a fake title on it with this title on it and just slipped it in on a bookshelf. It's a shot when there's a preacher character talking to the main character. You just see the edge of the book
background. Yeah.
And I spotted it and I was like, what's that? And I looked it up and I found out about it, and then I ordered a copy and found out it was only this little thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that is amazing document. So Kubrick was right onto that about how this complete insanity of revolutionaries is on the level of a serial killer, and that goes up and down, from the left and the right. You got your Nazis, and they do terrible, awful stuff. I mean, this could be written for Nazis, or it could be written for communists. It doesn't make a difference which one it is, So yeah.
Well, and it makes so much sense to me when you're saying that, because you know how earlier you were saying that everybody really wants to have a way to discern who the bad guy is. And that's why there was this magic to this movie, because it showed you exactly who the bad guy was. But your point is so great about, he's like, I've got the bubble gum and the shotgun, and he starts just killing them. It's the perfect example of how I believe I have come to the point of knowing without glasses, and how I can tell is who wants to go to war and who doesn't. And even some of my friends are like, good, get him, go get him in the, Caribbean, or take that boat away or whatever. And I'm just like, I love you. I think you're a wonderful person, but you have not matured yet. And that's, to me, how I sort it out. I keep it super simple. Are you after war? Or are you not? I would love to hear one of those. Can you read one to us?
These things in here. Yeah. Okay. Let me just
give
find
us
one.
A sample of it, just because.
Okay, I'll give you. Okay, here's the very first rule at the beginning of the book. The revolutionist is a person doomed. He has no personal interests, no business affairs, no emotions, no attachments, no property, and no name. Everything in him is wholly absorbed in the single thought and the single passion for revolution. That's number one.
So that literally sounds to me like Agenda 2030 or, you know, the Davos stuff. I mean, it's very much
Or
like
from the other side.
Klaus
But
Schwab, like you will own nothing and you will love it kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. But then I'll just add to that on the other side of the political spectrum there, the other people are saying, as was it the Project 2025? So one side is saying, oh my God, Agenda 2030. And the other side is saying, oh my God, Project, is it Project 2025? I
2025
can't
or
remember.
2024, I forgot. But
Yeah.
yes, I know what you're talking
So
about.
each side points to this evil agenda with a specific date, and they're almost interchangeable.
And both of them are into war, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you asked a minute ago where do I stand on the war? I mean, I am very much against most wars as well. The vast majority of them, I think most of them are unnecessary. I think most things can be diplomatically resolved, economically resolved, and stuff like that. It's unfortunate because you do get countries who attack other countries militarily, and so you have to be able to defend yourself. If you can't, you'll get taken over. Defensive war, yes, but every war gets framed as defensive, doesn't it?
I was literally just going to say, like, that what they do is they demonize the leader and then they go in. They demonize the leader and then they go in. And who knows? I mean, I don't know any of these people. The way I can tell if someone's good is like their fruits, you know, the way that they behave in the world, how they treat other people. And so, you know, it's really fun for me to have somebody like you that I meet on YouTube. And I think you're a really good person. And I like working with good people. And even if their ideas are vastly different and their beliefs are vastly different, like we both don't want to wage war on each other. And I don't want to troll your channel. And you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people out there that just have a lot of angst and they don't know what to do with it. And I think people like you give them other ways to look at things and ways of expanding their mind, or sometimes a movie will help somebody see themselves or someone else in the world. And so it's very effective. There's no doubt about it. And it's funny too, because both of these movies remind me of V for Vendetta. I'm sure you've seen that movie.
I have, yeah. I quite like that one, actually. It was very good. I think I've only watched it twice, and it's been over 10 years.
Loved that movie. I watched it recently, and again, like the more you grow and the more you learn and the more you see what's really going on, the more obvious the symbols are all throughout the film. But in that film, I thought like the greatest part about it was that the whole time she thought she was in prison, and she literally could have walked down the hallway. Like it was all her holding herself there until she was ready to wake up. And I think a lot of us are in that position, and movies like these two movies do help people awaken.
Yeah. There was a movie I saw a while ago. For some reason, what you were just saying sparked the memory of this film. It's an Australian movie called Bad Boy Bubby. Right? Yeah. Now, my stepbrother recommended this to me many years ago, and he was like, "Oh, you've got to watch it." And I just thought, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And it took me years before, but he recommended it so intensely that it stuck in my head for years. And eventually, I was like, "I'm going to have to check out that movie he talked about there." And I went and watched it with my girlfriend, and we were blown away. This movie, hardly anybody knows about it or talks about it. And it's about a guy who is raised in a sort of like an underground shelter by his mother. And she holds him prisoner and tells him that if he steps outside of the shelter, he will die from some sort of gas that's been released in the atmosphere. Or I think she tells him there's something like there's been a nuclear war or something, and it's only safe in this bunker. And it's not true. And she's just lied to him, and she uses that to keep him in the bunker. And she's having sex with him and everything. It's like she's got him as basically the scenario is that it's an abuse thing from the mother. But I think he basically is supposed to represent a child, but you couldn't show a child going through these things in the film. So they have him as an adult who acts like a boy. Yeah. And he's never grown up because he's never experienced anything outside of this room. And the first 10 or 15 minutes are utterly depressing. It's so, and you're like, oh, can I watch 2 hours of this? And then he accidentally kills his mother in some practical joke thing. And I think her partner, who shows up now and then, accidentally gets killed as well. And then he's like, oh, what do we do? And when am I going to get food? And he doesn't know anything about the outside world. And so he goes out of the bunker and goes out in the world, and he's terrified. He's convinced, I'm going to die. I'm going to get poisoned the moment to go out there. And he goes out and he's holding his breath and he breathes and he's like, I'm not dead. Whoa. And then he starts wandering around in the world. He becomes like this drifter who knows nothing about anything. And this guy is about as much of a victim as you could possibly be.
Oh, right? Oh, my gosh.
Anyone who thinks they're a victim, you got to watch this movie. And through a crazy set of circumstances, he just wanders around society, getting mixed in with different groups of people, and he's gradually learning about society along the way. But he's still got this childish mentality. And he's such a lunatic in the way he acts. And he's not really violent or anything, but he's so off the wall in his behavior that this rock band take him on as a lead singer because he does and says crazy things all the time. So there's this hilarious scene. He is on stage with the band for the first time with a live audience, and he is screaming the stuff to the audience that his mother used to scream to him. And the audience are just getting off on it. Whoa, they're blown away. I tell you, by the end of the film, he hooks up with a woman and has a family. And you can't believe the transition from the beginning to the end is one of the most inspiring things. And for me, I love that film because this film says, no matter how much of a victim you think you are, there are ways of bouncing back.
Go own it.
if you put the effort in, you can bounce back. The film's very surrealistic, but I love that message, because a lot of people cling onto this victimhood thing. I remember a friend of mine who we used to party around with years ago. I was talking to him, because I'd worked in the mental health stuff, and I was having a chat with him drunk one night in this party. And I was talking about I'd worked with people who had suffered physical abuse as kids and stuff like that. And he told me, oh, my uncle did that to me.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, and you know what? He showed no signs of trauma.
He had healed.
Yeah. But he said to me, all of this stuff about, I'm a big victim and my life is ruined and all that. No. It doesn't have to be like that. He said, I got over it really quick. And I challenged my uncle on it years later. I told him, and he wouldn't admit, but I told him and I said, you were out of order. And that's it, but I've told you, okay, bye. And to hang out with him generally, you would not think he'd experienced that at all.
Yeah.
He was so upfront about it. So, but a lot of people don't want to hear that. And you'll probably get people in the comments section saying, how dare you say victims can get over these things so easily? I'm not saying it's so easy, but whatever you've been through,
but
there are ways of getting over it. But if you cling onto the victim identity, then you won't get over it. You especially won't get over it if you have chosen not to.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in my Bible study, literally, I'm going to pull this back because I have my Bible study notebook literally right here. But I have got to share this with you because I was so... What Bible study has become to me is just looking up words. And when you look up a word, you learn a lot just from one word. And my cousin was bringing up order and process and forward. And basically it said something about something held ransom. When you're a victim, you haven't gone through the process of healing. So something is being held ransom until you get past the test. Yeah. And I thought that was such a great way of explaining a process. It's a natural divine order that happens only you know, this thing is going to be held from you until you let go of it. And it is a bitter pill to swallow. I'm not going to lie. That was the hardest pill for me to swallow after my divorce, was that, oh, wow, I've been a victim this whole time. You know, I was just as ridiculous as I thought my ex was. And I had always blamed him. And so it was like this crazy realization, you know. But I love moments like that. I love when you can learn something and just bust through it, and you do feel empowered. And I think you're right to share that story with people, because I think in this day and age, a lot of people are waking up to a lot of very difficult things. And it's nice to know that they can bust through that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's on my second channel a couple of years ago, I put this video up called, I think it was how to deal with anger and revenge fantasies, some like provocative title like that. It wasn't a clickbait though, because the video was genuinely about that, you know.
Right.
And I was talking in the video about this this attitude where people feel entitled to compensation for what they've suffered. And that's why they cling on to the victimhood. It's the main reason why they cling on, because they want some reparations, they want some entitlement from it. And they believe they're entitled to that. And maybe you could say that is true to some extent. But in the actual real world that we live in, we're not owed anything. And it's like, no matter what you've suffered, the world does not owe you for what you've suffered. That's a hard pill to swallow. But I find once you do swallow that pill, a lot of your anger just goes away. It's like, okay, I suffered all these things. Okay, it happened. I can't change it. It's done. I could go back and take revenge, but that's not going to undo the fact that I went through it.
Well, and that just puts you in another cycle.
Yes, yeah. And then if you don't accept that these things happened and you're not entitled to reparations, people carry the anger and then they take it out on other people, and it leads to the cycle that you just said, yeah. And then they become the angry one and they go and do it to somebody else and stuff like that. So it's like the cycle may as well stop with me. I might as well be the one who stops and says, okay, it happened, big deal. I don't need to go and project this onto somebody else and attack them as if they are my past abuser. And so in the comments section of that video, I had a lot of people who were really positive about it, and some people, whoa.
But they were the ones that haven't healed yet. They
exactly, yeah. But a lot of them are like, how can you be so naive? And I'm like, well, hang on. I had that anger myself for years. I felt like a victim. I wanted revenge against certain people and stuff like that. I know what it's like to be in that position.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. And it's like, and I can tell you from having taken this other pill of just accepting that these things happened and the world does not owe me anything, that it's so much easier when you take that pill. And there was a friend of mine years ago who carried a lot of anger. He was actually a really nice guy. I felt sorry for him. He did have some bad things that happened in his life. He had some unfortunate circumstances, but he carried a lot of anger, especially toward women. He didn't want to hurt women, and he never ever did anything to hurt women.
Right.
But he felt like women were always betraying him, lying to him, manipulating him and stuff like that. And he would go for dates with women. He could chat to women, get talking to them and get a date. He was good. And he wasn't the best looking guy in the world, but he was passable. He thought he was ugly, but actually he wasn't that bad, you know.
Yeah.
And I used to get girls saying to me, like, you know, he's actually not a bad looking guy at all. That's not the issue. What would put them off is his anger. You know, he wouldn't be physically violent to people, but you know, you could see this tension in him.
Yeah.
And so whenever he went for a date with women, it was like he felt like this woman should compensate me for what I missed out on in the past, or what went wrong in the past.
Yeah.
And the woman would be like, what the hell have I done wrong? You know,
Right.
And they would back off from it, and that would feed his thing again, you know. But yeah, I sat down with him one day and I said, look, Pete, you've got this thing where you're entitled to, you think that you're entitled to, like, whatever woman you go out with, that she needs to compensate you for what's been done to you in the past. And she thinks you're nuts. And I keep seeing this pattern with you. And I thought he's going to tell me to get lost, you know. And he just looked at me and he had this frown on his face and then this smirk of amusement because he realized it was true. And he went, that's right. And then he laughed. And I find that when somebody laughs at a revelation, it's usually a good sign that they've accepted it.
I agree.
Because, you know, humor is very much about the recognition of ironies. You know, if you see somebody else's behavior and something that they say and the two contradict each other, you find it funny, you know.
Yeah.
And so he was amused at what had gone on. And he burst out laughing. And he was like, I can't believe how simple that is. And I was like, okay, great, yeah. And I thought, let's see how this affects him in the future. He's probably going to forget about it and go straight back to the anger. And he didn't. From that moment on, he was so chilled around people and women. I just saw this relaxing. He just needed to hear that one thing. You're not entitled to these compensations. And some people, that can change them really quickly, but some people don't want to swallow that pill, do they?
I love that story. And that's actually a better wake up than the movies.
I'd say that's one of the best pieces of therapy I ever did.
Yeah, that is awesome. But I agree with you. And what he was laughing at was how ridiculous the lies were when he finally saw the truth. You know, it is, like you said, the irony. And I would go so far as to say I'm sad for the people that want reparations, because I think that if you really learn the lesson, then that is the reparation. Like that, it's such a gift to have agency. It's such a gift to know where you stand, to have peace about not being a victim, or, you know, not having, it really is mostly victim. I mean, honestly, if I had to say what most of the problems are around the whole world, I would say the number one thing is victim. And so that's kind of interesting that I learned it today from this conversation, that we have, we almost are keeping people from waking up with these films because of the very thing that they're going and, you know, shooting up and doing the things that they're not waking up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another sort of problem with these films, is that very few of these movies actually show any tactics that are useful. It's always like, just shoot this person, punch this person, throw them off a building, kill them, and then everybody cheers the end, you know, and but, you know, in real life, there's so many tactics that can be used to overcome oppression. Most of it's psychological. And actually, another dynamic to that is that how can I put this? Try to think of a right way of putting it. I'm struggling for the words on this one. You have to give me a moment.
No, that's fine. I was going to tell you while you're thinking of that.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll probably come back to me in a minute.
Okay. What I was going to say is, like, the one that made me laugh the hardest in They Live is when he very first has the glasses on. He walks into the convenience store and he sees that woman and he's like, "You are so ugly." He just screams it out, and of course nobody else would know, and she's just looking at him like, "Oh my God." He's like, "You formaldehyde face, like rotten, you know, bitch," or whatever he called her. I don't even remember, but it was that, to me, that was the, like, I didn't expect him to have that strong of a reaction. And then of course that's what made the big thing funny, you know, the whole bubble gum. And it's like, you really understand, because as a human that's been victimized, you want revenge, but you're really not better off getting revenge. You're better off just hold your peace.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that They Live has a lot of comedy in it because it offsets the unrealistic aspects.
Yeah.
The Matrix doesn't have a lot of humor, unfortunately. It probably could have done with some here and there. Yeah.
Well, it was so, remember though, like we're looking back, like, or we're looking at it from now, but back then, like him doing that slow motion thing and all of that was like really new, wasn't it?
slow motion thing.
Like,
Oh,
with the
in Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was like technically revolutionary at the time, and
Yeah.
That was amazing. It's still amazing. Those action scenes are still incredibly well done, and so many films have tried to copy them and not done a good job, and they don't even have the plot points of it being set in a Matrix world, and yet they're still having people doing like computer precision flip overs and stuff, and jumping through the air and shooting people while they're in the air. In reality, people can't really do that stuff. So it's I've talked about this before, I think on another podcast with the Matrix movie was so powerful in that respect. It changed action movies forever, and tons of movies then tried to imitate its unrealism. And I prefer the old action movies from, like, say, the 1970s and 80s, where people couldn't jump over walls, and they still had unrealism, but it was more literally grounded and believable, but more believable physical action. And I think there's a parallel, that a problem that goes on with some societies around the world, where I'd love to do a proper study on this at some point, but I've never sat down to do it. But I think that the more oppressive a society becomes, the more infantile its fantasies become. So if you look at like all the world of martial arts movies, a lot of the countries that have oppressive systems, their martial arts movies will be insanely surreal and unrealistic. And here in the West, we have become more and more oppressive over the last 20, 30 years, and our movies have become more infantile in the process as well.
Wow,
Some people would say that that's been done deliberately. The establishment is just feeding you superhero movies so that you have the wrong type of heroes and don't know how to fight back or something like that. I don't think it's been done deliberately in that respect. I think the film industries have responded to the public demanding more escapism. The more oppressive society is, the more people want to escape, and the more out there they want their fantasies to be. It's like in Japan. In Japan, the family system is very oppressive. You will do well in school. You will achieve this. You will get these qualifications and you will get the career. Otherwise, you bring shame upon your family and stuff like that. I'm not saying everyone's like that in Japan,
right? Of course.
But the country is well known for that. And a lot of people, what's the term, unaliving themselves because they didn't get the qualifications at college and stuff like that, and didn't pass this test. And in that society, they've got all of the really surrealist, escapist manga stuff and things like that. Literally,
and even their food is very like packaged like for a kid. Like there's a lot of color and shapes and yeah.
I mean, they have basically cartoons for adults, and the characters look like little kids with the big eyes, as you say. Like, this is something what I would expect in the West. Like when I was a kid, it was only kids who watched that stuff. You know what I mean? Adults watched movies, kids watched cartoons. But over in Japan, their escapist media is so bizarre and off the wall. I think that's in response to the great oppression that they feel at their own families. And
that would be a really interesting study.
Oh, it would be amazing if somebody could actually get interviews and stuff and get thousands of people and get all the data. It'd be and do it across many countries. It could be an amazing study. But from what I've seen, I think that's what's going on. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because like you are aware that there was a CIA office in Hollywood, right?
Oh yeah.
And so there's I do think there is some where they're setting the algorithm and then some where they're just trying to get the clicks, like I see there's a combination of both. But I do like your question from the very beginning, which is like, why would they want to wake us up if they had all that power?
Why would who want to wake us up?
Why would they want to wake all of us up if they have all of the power in the first place?
Do you mean in the CIA with the film industry?
Movies and yeah, because there's a lot of people that are, waking up right now for different reasons, or like there's movies like this that wake people up, but really it could be, like you said, like some double psyop, like we just want to kick the can down the road. We don't really care what you're thinking because we're just off doing other things. I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, say like some high level person in Hollywood or whatever, in some ways they might be an enemy. They might fund certain types of movies as a propaganda. From their point of view, they might be doing a good thing, but from our point of view, they might be like, oh my god, how can you do that?
Right.
They might do that, and then they might turn around and fund another type of movie which is actually incredibly good. People aren't black and white like that. A person can be a tyrant and an angel at the same time. And it's amazing how people can flip back and forth between the two positions, depending on the issues of the day, depending on what circumstance they're in and who they're aligned with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I found it pretty interesting the way under the Bush administration, Hollywood really went against the war on terror in a lot of ways. And it was really good. They were making movies that had a lot of sometimes very overt themes about how bad the war on terror was. And sometimes it was very subliminal. And even a lot of the popular conspiracy theories about the war on terror were getting encoded into Hollywood movies. They were fighting back against the Bush administration big time. And I agree with a lot of the things that were done there. There's movies like, say, Three Kings with George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg, and I think the rapper Ice Cube was in there as well. That was set in the Iraq War. That's a really fun movie, but it hits you with a lot of truths about that war. So movies like that were coming out, really hard-hitting movies. And then once Obama took over, suddenly Hollywood stopped being rebellious, and it's like, oh, let's just support this guy. And I was like, well, why aren't you rebelling now? Because a lot of the same crap that was done under the Bush administration was then being continued by Obama. But because he's your guy, suddenly you're not rebelling now,
Yeah.
So, I can look at those people in Hollywood and I could say, oh, you're terrible people because you're supporting the system. But at the same time, they fought back against it at other times. And, it's...
I totally agree with you about the spectrum too, because a perfect example of that is I know one of the Jeffrey Epstein victims, and she cried when Jeffrey was killed, like that, and that's like that whole Stockholm thing, right? Like, because they when you get to know such an evil person on a personal level, you also have seen their good side. And that's why it's so crazy when somebody like your friend actually heals from his trauma with his uncle, because that's not a normal reaction. The normal reaction is to have this dual-sided relationship with them, and it just kind of stays there. It just never goes away. And he was able to pull himself out of it, say something to his uncle, like, I saw you, like, I'm older now. I'm my own witness. It is really incredible what he did. So yeah, it's a very, God, humans are complex.
Well, there's also like the cultural atmosphere at the time, I think matters a lot as well, because I mean, if you want to see women being victims, you don't look to the West, you look to like the Middle East, basically, where they're all like slaves, and you have to cover your face, and they all get beat up by the husbands.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not all of them get that, but a lot of them do.
Right.
I know this because I've met some of them. When I used to work in the homeless hostels, and I would meet a lot of foreign people who came to Britain to get away from things like that. And I met a lot of people who were severe victims of that stuff. So I know it goes on. It's not just something that newspapers put out. But in those cultures, it's like, if from the women's point of view, a lot of the women's point of view in those cultures, that the treatment that they get has become so normalized that a lot of the women support it. And they will even put great pressure on their own daughters to accept it. And if the daughter rejects that treatment, you've brought shame on the family. And they even kill the daughter because she's not accepting the tradition. So it's so normalized. But at the moment, we've got this thing in the West where if somebody's had bad stuff done to them as a kid, it's now normalized that you have to be viewed as screwed up for life. And it's not the case. You
No,
know,
no. There's so many people healing themselves of very, very dark, like satanic ritual abuse, all kinds of stuff.
mm,
It's incredible what's being done.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But also, I think there tends to be an attitude of, if you go through something really, really bad, then it has to take a long time to recover. And that's not actually true. It can take a long time, but from what I've seen and from what I've experienced myself, it's not time that heals it. It's that during that period of time, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to process it. That's what's taking time.
Right.
And then once you hit on the truths that you need,
Yep.
then the change is super quick. Yeah.
Yes.
But if you can get through the confusion part quicker and get to the good conclusions quicker, you can heal so much quicker. You don't have to take months and years to reach the conclusion. There are ways of getting over these things super fast, and I've done this with some situations myself. I can't always do it,
Right.
but quite often I can these days. I'm getting better at it and faster at it.
And you do get better at it because it's like compounding interest. Because you've done some of the hardest work there is, it just becomes so much easier to do the little stuff. It's not as intense once you fix your big one, which for me was victimhood. But then I did have a codependency thing, but I got rid of that. I literally kept track of it. It was 8 weeks. It took me 8 weeks to just rid myself of codependency. And basically it came down to me just doing radical self-care and saying no to people. It was really easy.
Yeah.
And so it is very possible to not just awaken from movies, but awaken in life.
Yeah. I'm still trying to, as we're talking about this, I'm trying to remember what the hell I was going to say before. I had something so important I was going to say.
Was it about that book that you had?
No, there was something you asked me about the system, and I can't remember what it was. I was hoping that it would come back to me as we went along, and I've forgotten it.
Well, you know what? It'll come back as soon as we get off.
I know, yeah. I'll probably end up emailing it to you.
This is the beautiful thing about our brains.
If I think later, I'll come back in the comments section. And it's like, there it is.
There it is. What was the name of that book again? Because I forgot to write it down.
This little thing, Catechism of a Revolutionary by Sergei Nakayev.
Revolutionist Sergei Nakayev.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to order that because
it'd take you about 10 minutes to read it, and it is shocker.
Because I'm gonna do the opposite of everything that he tells me to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the worst advice you could ever receive. It's just terrible, and it's totally destructive. And I can't believe the honesty that's in there, to just lay it all out like that. It's like, if you took people who had that mentality, you could get psychiatrists in, you could study them and interview them and cross-examine them for years, and you would not come out with an honest answer from them on that level. I almost admire it for the honesty.
Right. At least you know where he stands. I do prefer that over the people that pretend to be something and they're the opposite, in particular people of power, that teachers or pastors that are totally doing something horrific, but they're using their position as a shield.
I would love to have actually met this guy who wrote this.
Is he dead?
Oh, yeah. This was written way, way back. This was all part of the Russian Revolution, I think.
Like during the Bolshevik times?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. This one was published 2010. There's a Wikipedia page about it that talks about the history of the document. I can't remember exactly what year it was. I don't think it even says in here what year it was. And I don't know why it's published now. I don't know who's publishing this and who for. And I don't know if anyone buys this and takes it seriously. I hope they don't.
It's quite scary if they are.
It's so strange because I do think there's a lot of people who actually think like this in real life. For me, the biggest problem, and this may actually be what I was trying to say before, and I forgot what I was going to say, is the issue of leadership being the biggest problem that humanity has. As a civilization, we're always trying to organize and reorganize ourselves, and we're always trying to select the right leaders who will run things, and it will all be smooth and no more wars and all this kind of stuff. And we just can't find those leaders. Everyone we stick in the top ends up doing bad stuff. Or if we stick someone really good at the top, then all the people who are immediately beneath them tear them to pieces and get them out of power because they want the power. We just have this eternal problem of not being able to find good enough leaders. It's I can't think of anyone in history who I would actually say, let's put this person in charge of it all and everything will be okay. What we do about that as a species, I don't know. And there's I wish I could find the answer to this. It'd be like the $1 million question.
I think we wake up to that we don't really need leaders, really. I think there's a lot more leaders than we actually need. I mean, even when you look back at, like, when they originally started this country, the amount of leadership or the amount of government involvement that there was, and now it's in every piece of your life, down to the freaking inner tube on a river in Washington State because they want to make license fees off of you. I mean, it's become ridiculous, actually.
Yeah, it's
less leaders. I think that's but think about this too, Rob. The word divorce. I mean, you can't even hardly get a leader to work in a family. I mean, half the families in America are divorced. And I remember, saying something to my mother-in-law because she was complaining about something. And I was like, what are you talking about? You got a divorce. So, like, you couldn't even get along with someone in your family. Why are you surprised at this?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's a good point.
But yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I've known very few people over the years who've had relationships that really lasted and were happy. I do know some, but I know far more people who have had it all go wrong and are not happy and are very bitter at the opposite sex. And
but really, all it is they didn't fix themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I'm incredibly happy at the moment. I'm in the best relationship I've ever had. 7 years in, and it's amazing because I talked to some of my friends about this, and it must annoy them when I tell them, I say, look, okay, I've got this relationship. We don't argue. Just we've got such an understanding. It's like, if there is a disagreement, there's no personal competition. Neither of us assumes that the other one is lying or manipulating. We just understand that there's a different point of view, and it doesn't become a personal competition at all. So we can have disagreements and it doesn't cause a problem, so yeah, there's never any arguments, and there's like a total trust. And if you'd have said to me 10 years ago that I would find that, I would have been like, no. That's like a fantasy that teenagers have or something like that,
But it's just when you get convinced that you can't have something that it comes, because you don't have all of that, like, fire on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I'm happy, but because you're
not desperately looking, right. So when people are desperately looking, they've got this ideal partner in the head that's like an archetype, and they go around trying to find that person in the flesh, in the real world. And so they go for dates and stuff, and it's like they project that perfect person in the head onto this person in the date, and
then they compare. Here's my checklist.
Yeah. Well, they either delude themselves that this is that person who's in the imagination, in which case they're going to get disappointed down the line because the other person is going to turn out to be different. And then they're going to be pissed off, like, what, you were trying to change me into what you wanted me to be.
Right.
Yeah, either that, or they meet people and they go, sorry, you don't tick all these boxes, so bye-bye. And yeah, it's just a shame. But
I would love to know how you met, because you said you weren't looking for this particular person. Did she just come in through the sunroof of your car?
It's funny. It's like it's like a big bloody movie love story, but I'll just keep it short. Like, you know, it's like I'd split with my daughter's mother. I'd been with her for 9 years. Some problems there. We split up, and I was struggling with the parenthood thing because it's such hard work, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so my daughter was 2.5, 3 years old. She was living with me half of the week and half the week with her mother, and she still does. You know, sometimes when the parents split, it's usually the dad who goes away and, oh, I'll see the parents once every second weekend or something. And then the mother's left raising the kids all the time. Guys need to get on that, and you know, even the odds on that. You know, I used to see it in the homeless hostels when I worked there. The family hostels, it would always be the girl who was left with the kid, and the guy was hardly to be seen. Sometimes the guy just disappear. So because I saw that all the time, I started to hate that about men who do that and abandon the kids. Or leave them.
You were not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just a case of I'm not going to do it because I think it's wrong.
Right,
I wanted my daughter in my life as much as possible, you know. So at that point, because I was struggling with the parenting, because it's such hard work trying to get work done on the videos and things like that, I decided I've had enough of relationships, and I've so many of them have lasted a while and then gone wrong and stuff like that. I'm sick of it all. And I achieved like this Buddhist monk calm. And it was like, I'm not even going to go on any dates anymore. I don't care. I'm just going to be celibate. And I deliberately stayed celibate for 2.5 years, and I didn't care. And I was so happy. It was incredible. And then a friend of mine who was the same guy I was talking about earlier, who felt that women owed him for things. He was having some physical health problems, and he befriended this girl on Facebook who was part of a group regarding mercury poisoning. And she had came to meet him, and he was a little bit paranoid because he always thought women are going to accuse me of trying to harass them. So he invited me out to meet him and her so that he would have a witness if she accused him of anything. And then I walked in, and I didn't even know she was going to be there. I sat down and I looked at her, and I was like, wow, you know, I was just stunned instantly before she even said a word. There was just something in her face, instant, incredible attraction.
Wow.
But I didn't go out with her until about maybe 2 years later, because she was actually married at the time. She wasn't seeing my friend. They were just meeting up as friends to talk about the health issues. She was having problems. She had a kid the same age as mine. And so I sort of got to know her a little bit through him. But I wasn't chasing after her. I thought she's stunning. She's really attractive. Wow. But she's with her husband anyway. And I'm happy being on my own. So I wasn't chasing after her.
Sure.
But with me and her would chat on Facebook and that. And then my friend killed himself about a year later. Well, actually, it was only about 3 or 4 months later. The whole complex set of issues went on there. And she was upset, and she contacted me. We stayed in touch. And she got divorced a while later. Then she hooked up with somebody else, was living with them. And a friend of mine was harassing her and on her case. He wanted her to go out with him, and she didn't want to. Well, he wasn't harassing her, but he was
going after her.
He got a bit besotted with her, and she wasn't interested. And so I just stayed away from both of them. It's like, I don't want anything to do with this. And then I hadn't spoken to her for like a year, and I was out Christmas shopping, and I was waiting for the toy store to open because I just dropped my daughter at school, and she just walks past, and it was like, oh, hello. And she comes over, and we just got chatting. I was like, she isn't going anywhere. She wants to keep chatting, so let's go for coffee. And something had just like, whatever problems that she had before, she'd overcome, and I'd probably done some of the same. And the chemistry was just incredible. You know, just from that, going for that cup of coffee, I was like, wow. I haven't for like 20 years. I don't think I've met anybody who I've actually thought I could settle down with this person and be really happy. And
I love this story. I love
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, and then got involved from there, and yeah, it's been 7 years, and she was all
Is she
cynical at the
into
beginning.
films? Does she like movies?
Oh yeah, we watch movies and
Oh,
stuff. Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
So yeah, that's how
Well,
all
thanks
that
for sharing
happened.
that. That was a good way to end it. I have as much fun talking to you about movies as I do just psychology and life and relationships and all of it. I mean, it's just you're just very, very easy to chat with, and
Thank
thank
you.
your
Well,
girlfriend for
that's
sharing your
just
time.
before you finish there, I just want to say that's what the movie studies are all about anyway. It's always been about that.
Yeah.
I tell some people this and they get confused. I'm like, what? It's not just about finding Easter eggs in movies. I'm like, no, 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 no. The movies are an excuse to talk about human psychology. That's all it is.
I think that's beautiful. I love it. Well, tell everybody where they can find you, and then we'll let you go have the rest of your evening to yourself.
Okay. The website and the YouTube channel of the same name are collativelearning.com. COLLATIVE. Collative Learning. Yeah.
All right. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks. It was great coming on. Yeah. Good to see you again.
Bye, everybody. Have a great Sunday. Sleep well, all that good stuff.